Welcome to CBSE English Teacher. Let's look at the line by line explanation of the lesson Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood from Class 12 English. Let's move on to the video now. About the author Anis Jung, 1964, was born in Rourkela and spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad. She received her education in Hyderabad and in the United States of America. Her parents were both writers. Anis Jung began her career as a writer in India. She has been an editor and columnist for major newspapers in India and abroad, and has authored several books. Guidelines. Before reading the story, you must ponder over the following questions. What compels the children to earn a living? How can we eliminate child labor? Theme. The story describes the pathetic condition of poor children who have been forced to miss the joy of childhood due to poverty and tradition that prevails in this man-made world. These children are denied the opportunity of schooling and forced into labor early in life. Anis Jung gives voice to eliminate child labor by educating the children and to enforce the laws against child labor by the governments strictly. The call is to end child exploitation and let the children enjoy the days of the spring that bring joy under their feet. Summary. Part 1. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. The first part talks about the writer's impressions about the life of the unfortunate rag pickers. The rag pickers migrate from Dhaka and find a settlement in Simapuri. They end up losing their fields and homes due to storms. They then come to the big city to find a living but are poor. The author then watches Sahib, the rag picker, every morning, who is always scrounging for gold in her neighborhood. Garbage is actually the means of survival for the elders, and it is something wrapped in wonder for the children. Sometimes the children find a coin or two from it. Even these kids have desires and ambitions, but they have no clue about how to achieve them. There are many things that are unreachable to them. For instance, shoes, tennis, and similar stuff. Later on, Sahib starts working at a tea stall where he earns 800 rupees and also gets to eat all the meals. But the job takes away his freedom. Part 2. I want to drive a car. The second part is about the life of Mukesh, who comes from the family of Bengal makers. Firozabad is quite popular for its glass blowing industry. A staggering 20,000 children are a part of this business, and any law that forbids child labor is brutally ignored here. Also, the working environment and the living conditions are pathetic. Children live in dingy cells and work around hot furnaces that make them blind when they enter adulthood. Since they are weighed down by debt, they cannot think or find any way to escape this trap. The politicians, policemen, middlemen, and bureaucrats obstruct their way to progress. Most women in such families think that this is their fate and just follow the tradition. But Mukesh is very different from the rest of the folks there. He has dreams of becoming a motor mechanic. The garage is quite far from his house, but he shall walk. Now let's look at the chapter and explanation. Story 1. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. Why do you do this? I ask Sahib, whom I encounter every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. Sahib left his home long ago. Set amidst the green field of Dhaka, his home is not even a distant memory. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes, his mother tells him. That's why they left, looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. Scrounging here means searching for. Amidst means in the middle of. Every morning, the writer sees a young rag picker boy who visits the garbage dump near her house and searches for gold in it. The writer says that he searches for gold ironically because although the garbage dump is full of useless, thrown away things, still he shuffles it so minutely as if he will get something as precious as gold from it. The boy's name is Sahib. His home in Dhaka was in the middle of lush green fields. They had left it many years ago and he does not remember it anymore. His mother had told him that there were many storms which destroyed their homes and fields. So they left home and shifted to the cities in search of gold. The writer again says, looking for gold in the big city. Gold here refers to something precious which was not available in their hometown. Things like shoes, money, bags, etc. for the children, and food, clothing, shelter as means of survival for their parents. The boy searches for such precious things in the garbage dumps. One day the writer questions Sahib and asks him the reason for shuffling through the garbage. I have nothing else to do, he mutters, looking away. Go to school, I say glibly, realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I'll go. If I start a school, will you come? I ask, half joking. Mutters means to speak in a low voice. Glibly means speaking or spoken in a confident way but without careful thought or honesty. Hollow means meaningless. Sahib replies to the writer that he has nothing else to do other than rag picking. The writer suggests that he should go to school. She realizes that her advice is meaningless for the poor boy. He replies that there are no schools in the area where he lives. He also assures her that he will go to school when one is built near his house. The writer asks him jokingly that if she opens a school, would he attend it? Yes, he says, smiling broadly. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? It takes longer to build a school, I say, embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. Embarrassed means feeling ashamed. Abound means exist in large numbers. And bleak means empty. Sahib says that he would join the writer's school, and after a few days he runs up to her to ask whether her school is ready. The writer replied that it takes a lot of time to build a school. She felt ashamed at making a false promise. She had said this as a joke and had never intended to open a school, so she felt ashamed of herself. Sahib was not hurt because he was used to such false promises, as they existed in large number in his empty world. He was surrounded by such false promises made by everyone around him. His word was empty as no promise made to Sahib was ever fulfilled. After months of knowing him, I asked him his name. Sahiba Alam, he announces. He does not know what it means. If he knew its meaning, Lord of the universe, he would have a hard time believing it. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the streets with his friends, an army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. Over the months, I have come to recognize each of them. He would have a hard time believing it. Means, it would be difficult for him to believe that his name meant the Lord of the universe. Barefoot means wearing nothing in the feet. The writer had known Sahib for a few months when she asked him his name. He replied as if he was making an announcement that his name was Sahiba Alam. The writer thought that the boy did not know the meaning of his name, and if he came to know that his name meant Lord of the Universe, he would not be able to believe it. His name was opposite to his life. He went around the streets and a group of friends. It was like an army of barefoot boys who did not wear any footwear. They appeared in the morning like the morning birds and disappeared at noon. The writer could recognize all of them as she had been seeing them for the past few months. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I asked one. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf, he answers simply. The writer asked one of them that why was he not wearing any footwear. The boy replied simply that his mother did not get them down from the shelf. As they were beyond his reach, he did not wear them. Even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another who is wearing shoes that do not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. It is not lack of money but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. Shuffles means slides them over each other. Excuse means a reason to justify a fault. And perpetual state of poverty means never-ending condition of being poor. Another boy who was wearing a different shoe in each foot said that even if his mother would have given him the footwear, he would have thrown it away. He meant that the boy was not wearing footwear because he did not want to wear one. The writer asked the second boy the reason for wearing a different shoe in each foot. He did not reply and shuffled his feet as he tried to hide the shoes. A third boy spoke that he was eager to get a pair of shoes as he had never owned one all his life. The writer takes the example of shoes to highlight the condition of these boys. They search the garbage dumps looking for such precious things. She further tells us that as she traveled across the country, she had seen many children walking barefoot in the cities as well as the villages. They reasoned that they were barefoot not due to lack of money to buy footwear, but being barefoot was a tradition for them. The writer wondered and concluded that the reason of it being a tradition was a mere excuse to hide the fact that they were so poor that they could not afford footwear.